Good morning and welcome to day 2 of ISLA's 2021 Securities Finance Forum. My name's Andy Dyson and it's my pleasure to be navigating through this morning's sessions with all of you. I have a few things I'd like to cover by way of housekeeping and a couple of perhaps reflections on some of the fantastic discussions we saw yesterday. Okay, so many thanks for all of you sticking with us for day 2. Hope you had some time to connect with other event delegates on the platform already, and I hope that you found the discussions yesterday as enlightening and thought-provoking as I did. I will come back to that shortly. As ever, much of this wouldn't happen without the tremendous support of our sponsors. So once again, I would add my personal and also corporate thanks to all of our sponsors for their efforts in helping make this event happen and for their attention and support during the last couple of days. One thing I did want to mention is many of you will know that at the end of today, those of us in London are lucky enough to actually have the opportunity to go and meet face-to-face, where we're holding a reception a little bit later on in Canary Wharf. More details of that to come, but the thing I would just shout out at the moment is if you have not specifically registered for the drinks event this evening and received your requisite QR code to get into the facilities, I'm afraid that you won't be able to join us this evening. We do have restrictions on entry requirements, and also we have restrictions on numbers because of the legacy COVID rules. So if you're signed up and you've got your QR code, I very much look forward to seeing you this evening. If you're not, unfortunately, we may have to wait a little bit later to meet face-to-face. Okay, couple of other things from a housekeeping perspective. Please feel free to ask questions. I think the navigation button on the right-hand side of the screen you're looking at gives you the opportunity to submit questions. If I'm honest, I'd like to have seen more questions yesterday, so please don't be shy. Anything that's on your mind, anything you don't agree with. We've got some fantastic sessions this morning, so please feel free to ask questions through the features you'll see. I think it's towards the right-hand side, bottom right-hand side of your screen. All of these sessions are being recorded and will be available on catch-up on the platform for all registered attendees in a few days' time. So you will be able to pick up on things that perhaps you didn't get the chance to see yesterday. And if you have any questions, please feel free to look at our FAQ tab on the platform, and obviously feel free to reach out either directly to any of colleagues at ISLA or our partners in terms of delivering the event, our friends at Event Rock. Okay, that's the housekeeping stuff out of the way. Couple of things I wanted to get to. The first one is something of a sad responsibility on my part, but many of you will have already heard of the sad passing earlier this week of Harold Bimpong and Jim Malgeri. And on behalf of, personally, but also on behalf of ISLA, I'd like to send our condolences and thoughts to the families of both Harold and Jim at this time. These are never easy moments, and obviously our thoughts are very much with the families and the friends of both Harold and Jim. I think it's fair to say that I didn't know both guys particularly well, but had come across them periodically in over the years in the concept of securities lending. I found them both to be very engaging, very knowledgeable, and in quite different ways, very passionate about the bit of the market they were focused on. And I think, we should note their contribution to the business and to the firms that they spend time with, and we should note their passing. It's never a nice thing to have that responsibility, but I felt we should note their contribution to the industry this morning. Okay, this year's agenda has been developed around the twin aspects of influencers and influences. And I think yesterday you probably saw certainly 2 panels where we had influencers. We had the buy-side panel. If you did not get the chance to see that buy-side panel, as an agent, as a provider, you probably need to get that on catch up, because some of the things they were talking about, I think, might give all of us a clue where this industry might be heading over the next 3 to 5 years. Fascinating session chaired by Brooke yesterday. If you didn't get to watch it, I really recommend that you try to do that. And then earlier on in the day, we obviously had several sessions. Primarily, we started off with a very interesting discussion that was chaired by Jonathan, and there, they were looking through the lens of business leaders as to what are the key drivers and elements of our market that are changing the way we think about the world and what that means going forward. Again, a fascinating session, and I would just highlight there, the points that were made around things that are driving behaviour. There is no doubt the themes of ESG, digitalisation, and our friends from a regulatory perspective in the form of CSDR are very much shaping behaviour and thinking about changing the way we think about the business. And then we had a panel that was primarily looking at the various working groups that we run on behalf of our member firms. I think I said yesterday that one of the things that I think is important to recognise is, as an organisation, we're nothing without the input and support of our member firms. And I think you saw, from those of you who attended that session yesterday, how powerful those groups are today and the type of things they're looking at. It's a very, very varied and broad-ranging agenda. So as we look a bit further forward into what's going to be happening today, I guess we saw influencers a bit yesterday, and today the big beasts of influences arrive on the agenda. And in particular, technology and the digital world is being discussed the first primary session this morning. I think whenever we look at our markets, we are increasingly looking in the direction of the digital world to help solve for some of the important problems facing us today. And then the second big beast that sort of is rolling out the hanger later on is, of course, sustainability and what that means for our markets. I don't want to preempt what that panel is going to discuss, but I actually believe that, as I said yesterday, getting our position right and winning the intellectual argument around sustainability and how that aligns with securities lending is an absolutely crucial part of what we do. And then finally, towards the end of this morning's sessions, I will be chairing a session on diversity and inclusion. As I'm just running out of time, I don't have much opportunity to talk about that session. I would absolutely recommend, though, that people try and stay with us for that session, because if the prep call is anything to go by, it'll be a fascinating and illuminating discussion. Okay, so I think as we now come to the end of the introduction, the first formal part of the agenda this morning is, last week I was very much lucky enough to catch up with Brian Lamb from Equilend. And we talked about some fascinating issues. We started off talking a little bit about Equilend's 20th birthday, but also how the market has changed over the past 20 years, and what he thinks the future might look like. So as we come to the end of this little piece, I will hand over to our friends on the technical side to run that interview when I sat down with Brian last week. I will be back with you after that to get us going on the first formal session, which is the session talking about the digital world. Thank you.